Welcome, everybody, to another ATC Network production. This is a special edition. We have a special guest we want to talk to. I'm your host, Scott Jones, and I want to remind you that if you like this show, please click the like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you hit the bell so you get notifications on when we have our other shows. But for now, I got to tell you, I'm really excited. This is somebody that I met last year at a conference. We had a lot of conversations about all the exciting work that they're doing. And for me to explain it, well, you're not here to hear that. You want to hear her explain it. This is Vaughn Bell, who is the vice president?
Senior vice president.
Senior vice president. That's
Growth
better
strategy.
than vice president. Senior vice president of growth strategy for Speranza Therapeutics.
Yes.
And you are based out of?
We're based out of actually here in Florida, although our company is nationwide and we are spread out all over the country. I'm in Kentucky.
You're in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And there's not good people down in Florida, so you got to come down and take care of things.
Well, of course.
I'm kidding.
Of course. I mean, you guys need me, right? And it's a little warmer here than it was last week.
Beautiful, right?
So
right.
I'm happy to be here.
That's terrific. Vaughn, tell me, first of all, what kind of work is Speranza Therapeutics all about? Before we talk about specific products, what are they all about?
So Speranza Therapeutics is a biotech company, and our vision is to bring products to the market that transform clinical scenarios where there's not a good response in any kind of. We've got some cancer drugs. We've had some COVID-related products. This one's addiction that I'm really the most excited about. But our vision is to bring new products to the market that fill a need that's not being adequately filled. It's that simple.
So it's really it's kind of a. You're looking at new technology and new treatments and new different things for a lot of different areas.
Correct. We are.
See, that sounds interesting. I mean, do you have any idea, what the mindset was behind that when it first started?
Our two founders, one is a pharmacist, Sal Raffinelli is our CEO, and Todd Krasinski, who's an RN, is our Chief Strategy Officer. The two of them have a long background in specialty pharmacy. Mm-hmm. And they Todd actually came across this product, the ST Genesis, as we've aptly named it, and got excited about it. And the two of them had just recently sold and completed a great run with another company that they launched. And so they decided to pitch this one, and it's their own company that they pulled together because they're excited about this product. And again, what they're looking to do is fill niches where the clinical need is not fully fleshed out, and look for new things and bring them to market with their specialty pharmacy background.
Well, I know for a fact with addictions, I mean, we barely scratched the surface of what we could be doing.
Yes.
And it's just such a slow process for people to come around. We're still using therapies and therapeutics that were developed in the 70s now.
Right.
Some new ideas are coming along, but it takes forever. So I can see the frustration they may have had watching things slip through the crack and saying, why don't we address this problem and why don't we do this? So is that accurate?
Yes, and I'm a clinician by background. I started in the business 35 years ago when I was about 17, and not really quite that young, but got in as a clinician. Yeah, exactly. Got in as a clinician, have worked in the treatment space for all of my career. Inpatient, outpatient, moved into more of a marketing role, and I actually left that treatment side of the industry to come join this company because I got so excited about this product. It was actually something that I really think is transformative for what we do. It's an opioid-related product, which of course we know how bad the opioid situation is. And it solves a problem that nothing else like it out there does in a way that's totally unique. Now, as I say to both the treatment professionals that I now used to be one of and now I'm marketing and selling to, as well as my own colleagues at the company, this is a paradigm shift. It's a whole new way of looking at how to address detox, because we've always done it with medication only. And this is a medical device that does it differently, but we believe much more effectively.
So let's talk about this specific product. Now, before we go any further, and I know some people might be ready to hit the button and turn it off, because all of a sudden, listen, it's every other day somebody's going on TV or somebody's going on the media or online and saying, I got a cure for this, I got a fix for this. This isn't a cure-all. This isn't a miracle. No. This is simply a tool that addresses specific needs that are either being under-addressed or not addressed at all. So I want to make that very clear. We're not looking at miracle things. We're not curing addiction. We're not like press a button and everything's okay. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about, I guess a tool would be a good way to put it. That,
it is a tool.
If you're fixing a car and you find a better tool that does the job better or addresses a need, and you're not going to break your knuckles on on a manifold because you got a better wrench, you're going to buy that wrench. This is what we're talking about, right?
That's exactly right. It is not treatment itself. It's a tool.
Yes.
It's a detox. It's a withdrawal management tool to help you get someone better integrated into your treatment program. So it's, again, it's not a magic bullet, but it does prevent folks from having the same kind of physical pain that they're used to, which I believe is going to attract patients who are struggling with, do I go get sober? I know this is going to really suck. I'm not really looking forward to going through this process.
Yeah.
People are going to be more comfortable with that, and the physical benefits are going to enable a treatment program to really get somebody connected to treatment. And then you proceed in doing the rest of what your program is laid out as.
Well, let's be more specific with this, Vaughn. Before we introduce exactly what the product is, I would like to know, what is the need it's addressing? Are we talking about physical pain? Are we talking about anxiety? What are we talking about specifically that this is addressing, and why do you think it's so important that we address it?
So when you
I
go
know
through,
you just kind of said it a little
right.
bit, but we're just going to...
Well, when you go through an opioid withdrawal,
Yeah.
it's really, really physically uncomfortable on a lot of levels. There's throwing up, there's diarrhea, you can't sleep, your anxiety's through the ceiling, you're having hot and cold sweats. It's almost like a really rampant, over-the-top flu.
I will say it's almost impossible for us to describe it so people can understand just how torturous
it is.
It is. It's not like, I just had a little flu.
This
is like you think you're dying.
No, that's exactly what it is. And the anxiety level is that intense.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the challenges is a lot of these guys, if you're an opioid user, and you're addicted to an opioid, historically, you've already had some moment where you've dealt with this. You've run out of drugs that week and didn't have something for a few days, and you started into a detox state, or you've gone through treatment more than once, and you know how bad it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very hard to get these guys to commit to treatment because they know this part is really hard. And it's frightening. It's not just, it's the flu, I take some meds, it gets better. They feel like they're going to die.
Now, it seems to me like, what we've been doing and what seems to be the answer is you dope them up more on something else to try to alleviate that symptomology.
That's what we've done.
Even if some of the stuff we're doping them up on is an addictive substance.
That's correct.
So
That's
it doesn't
correct.
seem like, and that's kind of like where the thinking stopped.
It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, that process has worked for us for years, and there's a place for that. However, a lot of people don't successfully get through that process just with the use of those meds. It doesn't necessarily eliminate those. You're sort of, it's like taking a med for a headache that gets it a little bit better but doesn't cure it. This device actually can drop those, what we call your CAL score, your clinical opioid withdrawal score, which people, when they come in for a detox, they kind of run a score anywhere from 10 to 15 to upwards of mid to high 20s.
That score is about physical pain?
It's physical pain, it's anxiety, it's a self-reported, it's an
Okay.
inventory that we do, and we go through and go, describe this, describe this, describe this, and that gives us a number, and we go, okay, so your CAL score is here. And that is everything from physical pain to diarrhea to nausea to anxiety and sleep disturbance and all that kind of stuff. So that you come in at that level. Let's say you come in at 2025. We traditionally, as you said, have given you a little med for this. We give you some medication for your anxiety. We give you some medication for that. This is a neuromodulation device that is attached to your ear and stimulates the vagus nerve and your cranial nerves. And within a matter of minutes, those symptoms go away. Now, you're still detoxing. You're still having to get the meds out of your system. The opioids have to come out of your system, so you're still in a physical detox. But all of those yucky symptoms, it's like having the flu and not feeling bad, and you just wait until it passes.
Now, this doesn't mean you're ready to go out and dance and run a marathon.
No, but you're
certainly
pretty good to
feeling
get
a
up
whole
and
lot better where you can focus on...
treatment. You can get to group. You can
Yeah.
go to, you can go and meet with your individual therapist. You feel okay. You can focus. You can sleep. A large part of what folks need when they're coming in from a detox scenario is they've not slept. And that's very debilitating for a body to not get adequate sleep. All of those things enable you to engage in treatments. That's why we say it's not the treatment, but it's a major tool that enables you to then engage with that treatment effectively. And our experience has been, it's very common for people, if they're not going to succeed in staying in treatment, this is where it happens. They go, this is not fun. I don't want to be here. I'm uncomfortable. I feel terrible. I'm leaving. I want to go back out and use. This often helps them get over that hump because they don't feel bad. And then they can engage and they'll maintain and complete a full treatment program.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, man, because that physical discomfort, especially at the beginning of treatment.
Right.
While I've read different clinical papers about what part of addiction is physical and what part is psychological and what part is, and it's like, physical might be, some people say it's 25%, some people say it's less, some people say it's more. But I'll tell you what, when you walk in those doors, it's 100% at the moment.
It is.
And if you're 100% obsessed with how you're physically feeling and the emotions it's causing and the discomfort, how can you absorb anything else? How do you even have a chance to get a foothold into recovery?
That's exactly right.
If you can alleviate that, even 90% of that,
right,
so that they can somewhat focus and start to look at things, and now all of a sudden you've taken that 90% of everything is now down to 10% of their concern,
right,
and everything else they can do.
Right.
And you're saying even sleeping is improved.
It's tremendously. I actually wore the device. So when I first joined the company, I put it on.
We always have to try this stuff, right? I did everything like that, except for the colon hydrotherapy. I never tried that. I'm not going there. But the other, I've always, so I'm glad you did that.
It was unbelievable. Of course, I had no pain symptoms. I wasn't in detox, so I couldn't relate to that. But the sleep quality that I had, I was just going to wear it for a couple of days to kind of get an experience of what it was like to wear it. I wore it for 4 days. It goes for 5. It's a 120-hour device. I wore it for 4 days. My husband was like, "Are you going to take that off?" I'm like, Nope, I'm sleeping like a baby. I'm not taking it off.
Did he try it then?
No, I only had one. He didn't get to. He was not happy. He was like, "Can I have it?" I'm like, "Nope, it's mine." It really is amazing.
That's crazy.
And people see a response to it within the first 20 minutes. To your point, when people are really struggling with, am I doing the right thing? Am I ready for this? I'm scared of going into treatment. When you can get them to a point where everything comes down and all that physical symptomology just begins to abate itself that quickly, then they do go, okay, I can engage, I can stay connected, and they proceed. And it is truly stimulating that nerve that runs into your amygdala, and that's where all that stuff is happening. It gets all that under control. We call it kind of the calming the storm. It's like, just brings it all down.
And I know some people are going to be like, 20 minutes, right, But if you think about it this way, if you pinch your nerve, let's say a common thing, hit your funny bone, that's hitting a nerve.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. You feel it immediately when there's a negative impact on a nerve, when there's a negative action against the nerve, you feel it.
Right.
So a positive action against the nerve would also be felt.
Exactly.
Yeah. And probably that 20 minutes, more of that delay is the psychological than it is the physical, I'm sure.
It is. And it is not uncommon for us to see that CAL score drop from, let's say it started at 20 to 25 to down to single digits within that first 15 to 20 minutes. And within an hour, we generally see a good 80% reduction in symptoms. And what we also see is that 89 to 90% of these patients that use this device then transition on into longer-term treatment, whether that's an intensive outpatient program, a residential program. Doesn't matter what the program is, but what we see is it enables them to engage, and 89% of those folks have gone on to successfully finish the treatment program.
So how long has this been out?
It was FDA cleared in 2018.
Okay, so 2
it's
years
been around
and then
a bit.
COVID, and
Yep.
so that
COVID's
slows
hit.
everything down, I know.
Right, that's been a challenge, but it's FDA cleared for this withdrawal management. It started as a pain device. So devices are very common in other segments of medical care, but we don't see them in the addiction world. So this is fairly new to us.
You got the TEMS unit, and you got the the other things like that, and all sorts of
similar
stimulation
concept,
units.
right? Similar concept, but this is FDA cleared specifically for these opioid symptoms, and so it's been around on the market. But it's really, as you said, a very different way of looking at any component of addiction treatment for us. And we've given meds, and this is how we've detoxed, and it's worked okay. Not great. People still feel rough, but it's okay. So we've done it for years. So this has been a very transformative and new concept that people have a little bit of trouble. It seems a little magic. Does this really work?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. So basically, Speranza Therapeutics is offering this and bringing this to treatment centers and treatment doctors and places like that. This isn't something for home use. This is really for therapeutic use in a medical setting or a rehab setting.
It has to be prescribed by a doctor.
Yeah.
It has to be overseen by a medical specialist.
Because it does. It does affect the nerves, and you've got to have it monitored and properly used. And I get that, but it seems to me, and I'm sure people out there listening is like, well, that seems like a no-brainer. Just use that. I'd rather you use that on my son or daughter than pump them full of pills to make pain go away that was caused by pills.
Right. Yeah. That is the logic.
I'm sure that's not the response you're getting now. Let's be honest. What kind of bias or prejudicial, walls are you hitting? Is it about money, or is it about just tradition, or is it about just
It's a little bit of
they don't
all
want
that.
to be bothered?
Yeah.
I mean, what is the
Yeah.
truth?
Well, it's honestly, to start with, it sounds very hocus pocusy. People are like, how does that work? I'm like, I can explain it to you, which I just did, but you got to see it. So we really encourage folks. One of the things that Speranza did last year was decide to let treatment centers and treatment professionals try a sample. We're like, we'll give you a couple. We'll teach you how to put it on a patient, see what it does. The patient experience is often when the providers go, oh my gosh, this is really awesome.
Yeah.
Because the patients are like, wait, I don't feel like that anymore. So it is, that's one of the things, is it's just, well, this works. Why would I move away from something that works, that I know, to something that is unproven to me? I'm like, well, just give it a shot, see what you think. So that's part of it. It is not yet fully reimbursable in every setting. So,
But that
there's a
takes time.
financial challenge. It does.
Yeah.
And we're working on getting a HCPCS code through CMS.
But I have to ask, I mean, the cost of medicating a client versus the cost of doing this, it seems to me like the time and the investment and everything else, you're going to save money anyway.
Right. The
It
device,
just makes sense to me.
Right. The device is $600. And so at $600, you are eliminating all those other additional comfort meds that you would traditionally have used. And the other things that we try to make really clear to the clinical teams is oftentimes these patients in this detox phase leave treatment early. So you lose keeping them in treatment down the road. And so from a financial standpoint, from a treatment provider standpoint, the benefit is whether you have the client reimburse you for this or whether the treatment center chooses to pay for it, you're going to pick up that additional extended amount of treatment, which is going to mean they're going to successfully complete treatment, hopefully, which is going to mean they have a much better chance of staying sober. And that's ultimately what we're here to do, is get people sober.
Having a treatment center have 20 people walk out the door and relapse,
Right.
as opposed to 20 people walking out the door saying, that was an incredible experience. I mean, that
Right.
alone is priceless.
It is. We actually have a large provider that we work with up in Pennsylvania who has used the device for a while, and they saw from an upwards of 28% of their patients that would leave AMA dropped it down to like 6 or 8%. Because of using this device. So not only did they keep those patients in their program, which was financially beneficial, obviously, to making sure that they stayed, but also got them successfully into that next level of care, so they stayed sober. And the other component that we see is that we're comfortable enough that we've said if a patient wears the device and it doesn't do what we say it's going to do, it doesn't make them feel better, they don't have that response, then we will not charge you for the device, because we don't see it not work. If it's done appropriately, if it's put on as we instruct you to, if the patient wears it, you wear it for the full 5 days. It's not something where you wear it for a couple days, take it off, and you have residual effects. It works because it's on. So you wear it for the full time you're in detox, generally 5 days is the length of the device. If you wear it and it does not do what it's supposed to do, then we won't charge the patient for that.
Right.
Because we don't see that happen. If it's worn correctly and stays on, it works as it should.
Well, I'm sure if you had a great number of people where it didn't work, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing right now.
We wouldn't be,
There's always going to be a case somebody's got a bionic ear or something weird. You're going to come up with something,
Right.
I'm sure.
Right.
But you know what? If it works right now, treatment itself. If you look at it from a business standpoint, treatment itself is a failing proposition.
It is.
What other business can you have a 10% success rate and still stay open?
Right.
Let's think about
Right.
that. I mean, it's insane. So shouldn't we be looking at every avenue we have to
That's
take that
correct.
10 to 20 to
Right.
30 to 40? These are people's sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, husbands, and wives. These are people.
Right.
And if trying something like that, listen, if they try it, I think you're confident enough that if they try it and they go in and it works for them, great. And if it doesn't work for them, no problem. We
Yeah.
get it. But you're confident enough to say
We are.
that we know this is going to work. Why wouldn't you try it? I just don't understand that, even if you just did a test run.
Right. And which is why we give samples, because we're like, we want you to see what it does on your patients. We want you to see what it does in your program. Patients, we put it on a patient in Tennessee, and other patients, it was in an IOP program. It can be used in any kind of program, intensive outpatient, inpatient settings, it doesn't matter. We put it on a patient that was in an IOP setting, and all the other patients were like, can I have one of those? Because this patient really within 10 or 15 minutes was like, wow, I don't feel this, I don't feel that. So it's really, the patients become our best advocate because they're like, wait a minute, I can focus. I can go back to my room and go to bed. Yes, I'll go to group. I won't complain about it because I can sit and focus and listen to you because I don't feel this terrible. And that's the other piece is I think it really gives a program. Patients know what they're walking into. If you're an opioid user, you know how yucky detox is.
Yeah.
It's a great way to get a patient that you're trying to get them to commit to treatment, to get them comfortable to go. If you go, look, what if I could explain to you that we have a device that will help you go through that detox without all of that symptomology that you had the last time you went through?
So what happens at the end of those 5 days? And the
Hopefully
patient
you're
moves
done
on.
with detox. So, typically your detox period is sort of a 5 to 7 day window. We have you use the device at the point that the patient's CAL score is high enough that they're being disrupted. So somebody might come in on Tuesday morning, they've just used, 5-6 hours before, their discomfort is not there yet. But by the next morning, they're starting to feel really crappy.
Right.
So at that point, we're going to go, this is the point that we're going to put the device on you. If you needed to use a second device, there are medications, like, for example, people coming off of methadone, that are very long-acting and have long half-lives. You can use a second device, but the device is set as its battery life is about 5 days, 120 hours. They're disposable devices, so once you're done with it, you toss it.
Now, is that for sterile purposes as well, too?
Not necessarily. It's just really kind of how the device is needed. I mean, it's not something that the manufacturer, when it was built, was meant to be a one-use opportunity because people are coming and going from treatment. You could use a second device if you had a particularly long-acting, like a methadone client.
Understood, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
but the 5 days, that's your typical detox period is sort of 3 to 7 days.
Right.
So that's why it was built that way.
Well, obviously with severe alcoholism and stuff, that can be as many as 10 days in detox.
Sure. And this is for opioid, not alcohol, but
is it possible to? I guess we'll have to wait and see, and let's focus in one area.
It's addressing certain symptoms, which are specific to opioids.
Okay.
Now, that does not mean those symptoms are not common in other drug detoxes as well. So you can certainly use this on a patient who's got a polysubstance abuse issue.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use it on a patient who's a primary alcohol patient because there's other issues there. You've got seizures to deal with.
Correct.
That's a different set of symptomology.
Good.
But you could use it on an opioid patient who also does some drinking.
Well, I like the fact that you're saying, and this isn't a cure-all for everything.
Absolutely not.
This is very specific in its purpose. Now, if a doctor identifies, or the clinician identifies, that they have these symptomologies in common, maybe it's because they use a certain amount of something or something.
Correct.
Then certainly you can use that. But I get this. I know that people go on that upswing of that real discomfort within the first 24 to 48 hours of them putting the drug down.
Exactly.
And that's when you want to hit
That's when you hit it. Yeah.
Because I've seen people AMA. People don't AMA because they feel good. People AMA because they are in distress and they're in turmoil and they're in pain.
And they know the way they can fix it is go back out and use.
Exactly. Now, I mean, it's not.
It's not that may not be their
It's
thought
not
processes,
100%. I get
but
that,
that's what their experience has been.
Yeah.
That's when I pick up another drug is when this stops. So if I'm not comfortable, that's a reason they want to leave treatment. They want to get back out to what they know they can control, even though they may know that's unhealthy. They are genuinely motivated to get sober. They really want this, but the pain's incredible.
Yeah, I think we have to move on in our thinking, Vaughn,
Yeah.
and people have to start looking at these things.
Right.
Because with technology and the way things are going, and having somebody like Speranza Therapeutics looking into how do we fill the gaps.
Right.
If you got somebody that you love is dying from cancer, and somebody comes up and says, "Here's something that we haven't tried," you're gonna, I'm there.
Sign me
so
up.
why don't we think about this in all areas?
Right. Right.
But people have to get on board. I mean, the old thinking, they're not going to get it until they want it. They got to hit total bottom, and they got to do this, they got to do that. Bottom is digging a grave, and
Right.
Now we've got to give people an answer where
Right.
it can stop, and it doesn't have to be the worst experience of your life.
No. And there's been a lot of transition in the addiction industry, which I've been in for 35 years, with a total abstinence model to a harm reduction model. There's a lot of different thoughts out there. Opioids have changed that landscape and that conversation a great deal. This device can be used in any of those settings. If you're in an MAT setting, we can help you get more effectively to your next treatment modality. If you're in an abstinence setting, this helps you get off of that without having the use of, as you said, replacement drugs to get through it. So it's not something that is a only one size fits all. It is really something that in the context of your program, you can use this tool to however it best works within your philosophy of treatment and the way your program is designed, whether it's harm reduction or whether it's abstinence.
Well, let's, and I'm going to put it out there because I don't want you to do this because, you have to represent, but I'm going to say, where's your integrity when you are preaching to a client that the answer is not in a pill, the answer is not in a drug, but then when they show discomfort, your first answer is go to a pill or a drug.
Right.
Sometimes you have to. We know that. You know
Right.
that.
Yeah.
There are times when there's such severe symptomologies, and I'm sure you talk about that.
Right.
That this is not replacing going to a hospital. This is not replacing, But if you got a chance not to make that your first answer, not to make drugs and
why would you not try it?
Why not do that? What message do you want to send? Do you want to send a message, take the easier, softer way? Because we know that doesn't work.
That's exactly right. And we really feel like this is something that we know is effective. If you wear the device as it's designed to do and you keep it on, it works. So we have seen, it's been tested, it's been studied. We just finished a small study with Yale in a home, an outpatient provider setting that does home treatment. Mm-hmm. We have lots of examples of where it works regardless of your treatment setting to address this particular part of the process. And then you take it from there, you do what you feel like is best within your program, but it is something that we feel like is, like you said at the beginning of the podcast, it's a tool in your toolbox.
Yeah.
And why would you not add a different tool that enables you to get a patient who goes, I don't want to be on meds. I don't want to have to go that route. Or I'm open to treatment, but I don't think I can get through these first 4 days. You're going to get me feeling to a 5. I want to get to the point where I'm feeling a 2. Well, we're going to get you to a 2 or a 1, so you can relax and get engaged in treatment.
And these advantages, certainly the most important thing is, possibly more people will stick with it and find recovery and be okay. But there's also the other side, and let's bring that up, for a company itself, for a treatment center or a rehab or a detox or whatever you are or represent. How much easier to deal with a population of clients who are comfortable as opposed to a population of clients that are coming out of their skin in pain.
Right. Well, we've actually had people identify that it's impacted the treatment program with lower staffing levels and, easier patient management and less incidents, because these are patients that are very uncomfortable. They're difficult. They create disruption.
Yeah.
And so there's another side of this that's not even about the patient's physical benefit. It makes the treatment program easier for the people running it every day. To have people that feel okay, can I get out of bed, honey, and get to group? Yep, I can. Whereas usually they're saying, no, I'm going to stay here in bed and, moan and complain because I feel terrible. And that's a distraction from you running the rest of your program. So there's a lot of benefits that are beyond just the immediate patient's experience.
Vaughn, you know as well as I do that there's detoxes out there that just give up on programming because it's so difficult to get clients to motivate to even focus or to show up to group or to do certain things. And you can't blame them if they are so physically racked with pain and sick and everything else.
That's right.
If you could get them in the room where they can focus and sit and be comfortable in a chair for an hour.
Right.
I'm going to tell you, there's not many opioid addicts I know that 48 hours in can sit in a chair and listen to somebody talk for an hour.
They're not.
Because it's so uncomfortable. You see them shifting, their legs are shaking, everything's happening, and it's all pain.
One of my favorite stories has been a woman that we used it on out in the West who was coming off of 125 milligrams of methadone. This woman was over the top miserable. She was shaking like this. She was freezing. She had extreme nausea. Her bones were aching. Her joints were aching. Her anxiety was off the charts. So they brought her in, and we put the device on her, and within about 20 minutes, her CAL score dropped from about an 18 to about a 6 or a 7. And she went back to her room to lay down. They're like, how you feeling? She's like, better. So they're like, go back to your room, lay down for a little bit. About 30 minutes later, I'm sitting in the CEO of this facility's office, and his windows open up on their smoking, patio. And I look out there, and she's sitting out there, and she had been bundled up in this massive. We're out in the West. It was hot.
Yeah.
massive sweater, blue jeans. So I looked out the window, and there she is. She's in a tank top. She's got her cigarette. She's got her earphones in. She's singing, just dancing. And I'm like, look, there she is. And the CEO goes, that's not her. I'm like, yeah, it is. He's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, it is.
Wow.
I walked outside. I was like, hey, how you doing? She's like, better. I was like, how's your anxiety? It's pretty much gone. How's your nausea? Pretty much gone. She's like, I'm a little achy. Okay. How about your cold sweats? No, that's not going on. Okay. Feeling better? Yeah. He didn't recognize her. Her face
That is
looked
insane.
so different. He was like, that's not her. I'm like, yeah, it's her.
I'll tell you what, I would love to see a lot more of things like this, but we definitely want to start with this, the ST Genesis. We want people to try it, find out about it.
Please, check us out. We have a website. It's www.SperanzaTherapeutics.com.
It's on your screen,
It's on
so
our
you
screen,
guys will be
yep.
able to see it.
You can reach out to me by email or by phone. I'm happy to be accessed. My cell phone is 502-500-2937. Shoot me a text, give me a call, and I'd be happy to explain it to you. And we'd love to give folks some samples. I mean, we think that's the best way is check it out. We'll give you a free sample, let you see what it does, apply it to your program.
When it's something new, if you say I'd like to try it and they say no, you have to, then don't buy it. Don't.
Yeah.
We're talking about people who are saying, you don't have to believe us, but just give it a chance to look at the evidence.
Right. See it for
And
yourself. See how
if
it
you
works.
got questions, if something's not working for you, tell them. You guys are.
That's one of the other big things that we pride ourselves on is we've put a whole service model around this. We do training with you. We do training on how to put the device on, of course. We do training to help you choose a patient. We talk about how to monitor it from there. We're available. We'll come out to your facility and help you put it on. We'll jump on a Zoom call if you'd rather and sit there while you put it on the patient and help you. One of the things that we believe is it is a paradigm shift. It's a totally different shift for the patient and for the treatment program. So we have to kind of hold your hand. And we have tried to build our company's culture on a service model where we get this is new. So we're not going to sell you some devices and say, good luck with it, I hope it works.
Right.
We're going to come hold your hand, be available however you need to, jump on the phone with us, because once your patients begin to get integrated into your program, then you'll have a confidence to use it. But we want to make sure we give you all the tools to feel confident yourself, because it is new.
But in all those trainings, the tools and everything else that you're going to supply, and you're going to be there with them, but it's also not an overly complicated device. I mean, let's be honest about that, right?
It's really quite simple. So it's a small, it's like the size of a jump drive. It fits right behind your ear, right here. It has 4 little small needles that go along your ear in 4 different spots. It stimulates your vagus and several cranial nerves. We tell you exactly how to attach it. You put it on the client. They wear it for the entire 5 days that they use it. It delivers a very small current that and I say small in the sense that it's not something you're conscious of the whole time. You're not sitting there getting shocked. It's very non-invasive. You can come and go. You can wear it while you sleep. You do wear it while you sleep because if you take it off, the symptoms will come back. But it takes a matter of, once you know how to do it, 5, 6, 7 minutes to put it on. It does fit closely against your head, so there's not a lot of disruption to the patient.
Yeah, if somebody's not walking around with
Right.
This big
It's
thing
not
on their
big,
face. Of course,
you
we
know.
all walk around with our phones all the time anyway. What difference does it
What's
make,
the
right?
difference? Well, and it is it is clinically easy to put on. We train you to do that. Physician orders it. A nurse or another medical professional can apply it. It will sometimes do what we call attenuate, which means that the nerve gets tired of receiving the signal, and so we teach you how to disconnect the one lead wire, let it rest, like resetting your computer. You just let it rest for a minute.
And some
put it
people
back
are more
on.
sensitive to things than others, and you may have to give them
Right.
short breaks or
Right.
something, right?
So well, and what you see is also they might say, my symptoms are coming back. And we go, okay, well then let's check for attenuation. And the nerve is gone, okay, I'm done. And so you give it a break, put it back on, it comes right back.
Right,
So
okay.
that's really that's again part of our service to make sure you know how to monitor it. But we don't even have attenuation is not necessarily going to happen to every patient. It's not even that common. But we want to make sure
It's possible. That's
that
all. Yeah.
you know what to do. And again, it's easy to put on, it's easy to wear, and it's not disruptive.
So what kind of medical oversight is necessary to have these devices?
Physician has to order it.
Okay.
It is FDA cleared, and so a physician has to actually order and order the device for the patient. A nurse or any medical professional that's been trained can apply it.
Okay.
So we've trained EMTs. I mean, most of the folks that are trained because they're in treatment centers are nurses, but you don't have to be a nurse to do it. It gets anybody that's been through the training, which takes us 20 minutes to show you how to do it.
Oh, okay.
It's not complicated.
This isn't like a 6-month training and all.
No, it's literally
yeah.
you affix the device with an adhesive. We show you where to apply the 4 little prongs that are addressing each of the nerves that it's a needle immediately addressing, and you put some bandages over it to make sure it's secure, and that's it.
Well, I know we've been using in some places auricular acupuncture, which is a very similar concept, but it's not that continuous that you need to keep those symptoms at bay while the body adjusts.
Correct. Yes, and that is one of the big things is we have people go, well, I've been wearing it for 2 days, it's good, can I take it off? Nope. As long as you're in detox and we're concerned that you may have those symptoms come back up, until the doctor says, yes, your detox is complete, we're going to leave it on you.
Took you 5 years to get this sick.
Right.
Why don't you give it 5 days to feel better? All right, let's do that. How about, once they're doing this, is there any monitoring and or reporting that is being done when these devices are worn and when they're over?
Great point. So when we put it, before you put it on, we check your cal score. When you've got it on, we check it again in about, say, 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. Check it again in an hour. And then we suggest that you check it per shift if you're an inpatient, or at least once a day if you're in an outpatient setting, so that we do another cal score, because it will sometimes, you can see a shift back and forth. That way we'll know if we need to check for attenuation. But we just monitor your cal score and make sure that it stays applied correctly. If someone, accidentally pulls it off with a hairbrush or, pulls at it, then, they would need to come back to their provider and get it to be reapplied. But we just monitor to make sure that your cal score continually shows that it's working. Again, you may see people whose score starts creeping back up, and we'll look and see whether or not it's attenuated. But traditionally, as long as you're wearing it, that's going to be consistent.
Now, this is done in-house at the rehabs or at the detoxes,
yes.
or wherever the
but
device is
IOPs are fine as well.
Do they do, and they do this monitoring, you give them the tools so they can record and do all of that, and give them, I assume it's like similar to like a Bex Index or something like that, right? So that's easy. They could do that. Do they share this information with you? Are you compiling as you're going?
We'd love to. We'd love to.
It's kind of on a volunteer basis.
Yes.
If they'd like to, you would like to have
Matter
the
of fact,
information.
we are at a position now because we are trying to get greater adoption of the device. We're working with payers. We're working with CMS to get a HCPCS code identified. We would love to have data, and it's totally appropriate for us to compensate a provider for providing us that data back, because we need to have that to see it's a new device in this space. It's not a new device in terms of, it's been used in other settings medically, but for addiction it's newer. So we need to have that data. We're happy to reimburse a provider to say, if you'll collect this data, we give you this very short list of things we need to collect. What were the cal scores? At what point did you check it? Just basic, demographic data, of course, that's been HIPAA compliant. We don't need to have the patient's information. But we really need to have that data to work with payers, to work with CMS, to continue to get it adopted at multiple levels. And so we're happy to compensate a provider that will give us that feedback.
So this is actually a good opportunity, and I'll say it because if I'm wrong, you're not going to get in trouble. But, we're talking about a product that's been approved for 2 years, but due to COVID, there's been a little bit of kind of the pump the brakes on being able to get it out everywhere, just because you couldn't get everywhere,
right.
Obviously. So now let's talk about this like this is brand new on the market. If you get a chance to get this in now and maybe work with them and help them with some of these studies and stuff, that could benefit you as well.
Absolutely.
This might not be an opportunity. Once the data's in and everybody's starting to do this, you won't have this opportunity. So be one of the first ones, not to mention the fact,
great point.
Wouldn't you like to put this out there in your own marketing, in your own branding, that you go above and beyond and look for everything possible to help your clients?
Right, absolutely, Scott. I mean, it's really, and I really feel like as a marketer, which has been my primary function for much of my career as an executive in the treatment industry before I left the clinical world, is that it's a marketing tool, because patients and their families know how difficult this process is. It's a great way to attract people to your treatment program, because it's something that you are adding that's an added value that clients will appreciate. And we'd love to have more providers be willing to participate. There'll be absolutely opportunities for us to do clinical trials, to do additional study of it. Like I said, we just finished this study with Yale. We're looking at some other ones. We'd love to have partners in the field. That's what we have to have. So it's a great opportunity for you to get your name out there, studying something that's going to be, I think, industry transformative.
Karen and I, we both appreciate you. Last year we met because you took one of our trainings.
Yep.
Because you're always out looking for new information as well.
Absolutely.
And so are we at Addiction Training Center. We have absolute confidence in what Spironza is doing and with with the ST Genesis product. But more importantly, listen, it's a no-brainer to make a phone call. Talk to Vaughn. First of all, she's a delight to spend time with.
Thanks.
You are. Try it.
Yeah.
Try it. I mean, I'll tell you what, when your AMAs are still at a high level and people are still sick and vomiting on the floor and not showing up and not focusing and just they're walking out of the detoxes almost as bad as they were when they walked in. Mm-hmm. And all you've done is just manage to keep them in a building. That's not treatment. Look for these things. Really elevate yourself.
I'll tell you one other story that's really fun is that I was talking to a fairly large company, one of the larger treatment companies in the country, with one of their presidents of one of their divisions, who's a colleague I had worked with in a previous company for long. I've known him forever. And so I was trying to get him to adopt and use the device in his treatment centers. And he was like, it seems really cool. I'm very fascinated, but trying to kind of run the numbers because most of their patients were Medicaid and, it's not reimbursed at that point. So he's like, let me think about it. One of his hospitals had actually already used it. And I had kind of said, I want you to see it. They've already used it before. Check it out again. So he was visiting that hospital, I guess 6 weeks ago or so. And they had a patient that was in there that was in detox. And he was sitting in his room, just, got to get out of here. I can't take it. He was rocking. He was anxious. He was, and so this particular executive was walking through. They introduced him. And the CEO of this facility said, I'm going to go get one of these devices and put it on this patient. Put it on the patient. And like 10 or 15 minutes, the guy was like, oh, okay, all right, I'll stay. So my friend called me and he said, I'll order 25 of them. I went, you have to see it. It's honestly, and so, I mean, he had said all along, you've done a great job of explaining it to me. I really get it. It sounds very cool. But I couldn't get him to actually try it until he saw it on a patient. And that's why we say, we want you to have samples. We want you to check it out because it's really, your experience then helps you decide how to use it in your program.
If you work in a treatment facility, having calmer, happier clients is for you. If you're a clinician, having clients who could focus and actually share their traumas and listen to you and do those things is fantastic. If you are administration and finances, which we know you've got to stay open.
Right.
Just think about this. Extend every one of the AMAs by 1 day. How much money did you just get?
Right.
How much money did you lose because they didn't make it a week? Before you start talking about dollars and cents, start looking at the losses that you are suffering.
And what often happens when patients AMA? They take the guy in the bed next with them.
Oh, absolutely.
So you didn't just lose one, you lost two.
Listen, you're in a room full of happy people. One miserable son of a gun walks through the door, the whole room gets toxic.
That's right.
You got one person who's in pain and miserable and it's not their fault.
No.
It's just their state that they're in. If you could change that state before they poison a population, what is that worth to you?
That's right.
So we should not even be talking, when you're talking about, $600, I don't care if we were talking about $2,000.
Right.
We're not.
Right.
But I don't care if we were. This should not be part of the conversation because you're taking major losses. And then if we want to put it on the other end, and I know the money people can't think this way because you got to separate treatment and finances.
Right.
You can't exist in both worlds. But for every one of those dollars that you're losing, it's possible you're losing a life as well. So
that's exactly right.
I mean, if you tried it and you didn't like it, fine.
Right.
But if you didn't try it just because you didn't want to waste the time, you didn't want to waste the effort, where's your dedication to this field?
Yep. I mean, again,
and I'm so happy that you're doing what you're doing now.
I felt strongly enough about this device that I left that side of the business, which I love and may, at some point in time be very directly engaged in again. But today, I'm passionate enough about this that I want to be out selling this thing because I think it's really got a chance to make a difference in a field that I'm passionate about. My husband's been sober a long time. I have a long history of being in the recovery world, both professionally and personally. And I don't want to see any more people die. And we do it every day. And this helps.
We were just talking that, I'm in the process of trying to help one of my kids, my own children.
Yeah.
And I've seen her fail many times. And a lot of times she is coming out of her skin with this anxiety and this, she doesn't sleep, she doesn't eat,
Right.
she's in a cold sweat, she's uncomfortable and miserable, and trying to get her back into treatment when she knows that's what she's going to face.
Right.
If there's another answer, maybe you won't feel that bad this time. How about that?
Well, when you get your daughter in treatment this time, I'll be happy to get a device to that treatment company. And
We'll
maybe
figure
we
that
can,
out.
Yeah.
We'll figure
maybe
that
we
out.
can-
I'm going to tell you right now, if your name is Bob, you own ABC Treatment Facility, and you don't believe any of what we're saying, you think we're full of crap. Let's just be honest. You think this is all just hooey? Fine. Make a phone call, get a device, and try it. And then if it doesn't work, you could still call it hooey and you didn't lose anything.
Exactly.
But if it does,
No
you may have
offense.
just changed your treatment center.
I believe it. I agree. Thank you. Thanks. We're excited about it. We'd love to get you engaged.
And we're excited here at ATC to be working with great people like Vaughn and all the people over at Speranza and finding answers for questions that should have been answered a long time ago, but we just got lazy is the truth. And we can't do that anymore. It's time to step in and do something different. Give them a call. The number's on the screen. Check them out on their website. Vaughn will be, like I said, a joy to talk to.
Thanks.
So there's no pain there. Trust me, no pain there.
Well, we
and there
appreciate
won't
it.
be any
Thank you.
pain when you get one of the units working, too.
Thanks so much for having us. We're excited to bring it to market.
Absolutely our pleasure. I want to thank everybody for joining us at the ATC Network podcast. This has been a special edition highlighting Vaughn Bell and Speranza Therapeutics and their product, ST Genesis. Make sure you check it out. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.